look at all the people who are here, and there's not all that much to do. Imagine how many people would be here if there was stuff to do, like shopping and more restaurants and stuff like that. So what we want to know is, the Shack is all well and good, but what's next? What's the plan for the parcels behind you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what we envision right now is to create the buzz, create the excitement so people come down here, and it creates the demand. What we really need is the demand for somebody to say, I want to be on those parcels. As you know, over the years, people aren't knocking down our doors to say we want to buy parcels. Actually, we don't own them yet anyway. We're trying to get those from the city. So that's a process we're going to go through. But once we take them over, we'd love to RFP them out and find out what developers could come in there, establish retail zones, establish housing, establish places to be, things to do, museum or cultural arenas, so things like that. Up on the odd block, we have the canals. So the public canals, which is what we focused on last November, getting the canals historically aligned, and the people like that. Public loved the fact that we've changed that and made it historically accurate in terms of the alignment. So we'll do that, get that right, and then on either side of that, we'll have liner buildings at the towpath level, and then again, opportunities. We have a lot of people are coming to us saying, hey, we'd like to open up a store. What do we need to do? We need to build some of that, build that infrastructure, get the canals in, and then north of that, we want to get some parking, lower level of parking at the 580 level, the lowest level, so it's hidden. And then above that, we're talking about possibly a public market and a museum up in that area. So there's a lot of opportunities, have some city streets over there, more cobblestone streets, so we keep a connection, keep it from a multimodal standpoint. You can just pull up, you can walk through the area and have businesses that want to come down. And again, we've talked to probably 200 different businesses, and nobody wants to be the first one in, but when they see excitement like this, then they get excited about it and say, yeah, maybe we should talk more. So we are having a lot of ongoing conversations.
Apparently, there's a buffalo on a bike behind you, which is quite interesting. What about the possibility of taking the parcels and instead of doing an RFP for a developer or singular developer to do something with it, what about just putting in architectural standards and selling the parcels and letting people do whatever they want with them, so long as they follow a certain set of guidelines?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. They could do that right now because the city owns them. So if the demand were there for that, the people would do it right now. So I think what we're trying to do, we have the design guidelines in place. So that is there. So we kind of keep the historic component or content in terms of design guidelines. So that is there. What we want to do is, again, nobody wants to be the first one in. We've got to get something going. And when we do that and frame that out and have a master plan, have some ideas of what might fit in, and we put a seafood restaurant next to a museum, next to something else, maybe there's a bike store with bike rentals, maybe the kayak guy wants to move inside, the different ideas like that will generate.
Tell me, like the short answer in terms of why it's more beneficial than to sort of master plan it out rather than having it be more sort of individualistic and haphazard, for lack of a better word.
No, it could be individualistic because when we RFP it, we have two options. RFP, there's 6 parcels on the historic site. The RFP will state, tell us what you'd like to do on any of the 6, or tell us what you'd like to do on all 6. And then the responses coming back will give us hopefully a multitude of options. There are some people who would like to take all 6, and then they have to comply with the guidelines and they have to comply with the standards, and there's height restrictions. And I think that would be great if there is somebody in this town that would like to do all 6. I not necessarily think there is right now, but maybe there is somebody that would like to open up a restaurant on one of those parcels, but they're always concerned about parking. That's another issue that has not been resolved yet.
And to that point, I know you're obviously going to get a lot of pushback when you do bring up parking from, the same people who gave pushback about the Benderson plan and so forth. And I guess my question would be, are there advocacy talking points that show the need for the parking and the demand for the parking, and frankly why we would need it?
Yeah, the customer. Every vendor we talk to, every restaurant operator, anybody that sells any product, they always ask the same question: where does my customer access my store? And if you say 2 blocks away, they say, I'm not interested. So we've got to find a way to get parking close, and that's absolutely essential. We've talked to over 200 different vendors, and they've all said the same thing. So without parking in the equation, it will be exactly where we are now with nothing there. So it's an issue that we have to solve. There's no way around it.
Is the parking garage that was scheduled to be over behind Marine Towers, is that done? Is that gone?
No, it's not done. So it's just been on pause, and we're looking at that and thinking about other options as well.
One question. You guys have had 2 bites at the apple now on getting the city to transfer those parcels to you. one for the master plan, second one HSBC. That whole drama ensued. What makes you think you're going to get them this time, and what are the details of how that actually happened?
Well, I think we're going to get them because we have a good offer in place, and we're talking with the council, and we've got to get the council and the city together, which is what we're working on, and we're going to have agreements in place that'll say that you give us the land, we'll give you X amount of dollars. It's a pretty significant dollar amount, and then the constraints of that deal will be something that we all have to agree to, and I think we're pretty close to that.
Wage stuff still involved, even if it's not big box retail?
Yeah, it's not going to be an issue. You know, the living wage will apply to agencies like ours. You know, we'll pay a living wage because we do, and Buffalo Place pays a living wage. But we can't restrict that on a retailer to come in. If we had a small coffee shop with 15 people, they can't be burdened with that because they can't be competitive. So we have to protect that individual. So going back to the supply and the demand, for us to get somebody into those shops, we can't put demands on them or restrictions that won't allow them to be successful.